Ever since the end of the November election, all you can hear about when you turn on the news and hear news out of Washington, D.C. is the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff this, the fiscal cliff that. Well, I'm glad to see that both the Republicans and the Democrats at the federal level are going to do something about this quote-unquote fiscal cliff. This, of course, being the series of both tax increases and cuts at the defense spending level and in other programs at the federal level. That result came out of the inability for the Republicans and Democrats to compromise back in 2011 when we were facing a potential government shutdown. Basically, they came up with this deal and said that we'll have these tax cuts and tax increases, and this is so egregious that it will force us to make a concession between now and the end of 2012. Just a few weeks left in the year, no concession has been reached yet. Along with this quote-unquote fiscal cliff is the end of the Bush-era tax cuts and that 2% payroll holiday. All three end on December 31st. Together make up the quote-unquote fiscal cliff. And we're hearing gridlock again in Washington, D.C. between Republicans and Democrats. Seems like nothing changed before the election. But let's talk about getting serious with this financial deficit just for a second. Everything I'm hearing out of Washington, D.C. talks about reducing the national debt by $2.2 trillion over 10 years or $2.4 trillion over 10 years. I know that sounds like a lot, but you know what? It's really disingenuous and isn't going to do anything to help our national budget situation. We're more than $16 trillion in debt as a nation. Over the last 6 years, so going back to the Bush administration all the way through the Obama administration, this country has deficit spent over $1 trillion a year. We're projected in 2013 to deficit spend $900 million. It'll probably be $1 trillion when it's all said and done. My point is, if we're deficit spending $1 trillion a year, how is cutting $2.2 or $2.4 trillion out of the budget going to help the budget deficit situation? We're still going to increase it year after year. Until I hear one of these politicians really talk about $1 trillion in cuts or savings, I don't care how you want to do it, nobody's being serious about dealing with the budget situation. It is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And for the president's idea about the top 2%, having the Bush-era tax cuts end for them, and that would help the budget situation, again, we budget deficit $1 trillion a year. How much would the top 2%, how much money would that mean for the federal budget if that expires? About $56 billion. In other words, 1/20th of what we're losing and spending or overspending every year as a federal government. What if we let the Bush-era tax cuts expire for everybody? No one extended for the middle class, for the poor, no one. Well, then it would generate probably about $260 to $280 billion a year in additional taxes. Again, when you're deficit spending more than $1 trillion a year, where's the other 3/4 of savings going to come from? That's the problem, people. It's so big. Neither side is being serious with you or me on how we're going to solve this budget situation. And all I know is our children are going to be straddled with more and more debt. And today, every man, woman, and child owes $52,000 just to clear the debt. And I don't see that number getting shorter anytime soon.